Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Um, I watched a video today that inspired me to sort of chime in on this topic. I only make these videos when I feel like I have some level of expertise or some personal experience that another Muslim or anyone else in general, can benefit from. And I was watching a video today that dealt with secular education and the Muslims and how certain individuals who, you know, have gone to Islamic universities and then returned from there and, immersed themselves in secular education. And from that, lost their way, became, dare I say, deviant or have deviant ideas or ideas that are not founded in Islam. Secular education, especially, let me preface or clarify. If a person goes to college and they're studying in the STEM field, which is your science, technology, engineering, and medicine, then you have less opportunity to come into contact with some of the things that I'm going to talk about. If you are in the social sciences or humanities, philosophy, anything like that, this is for you. When I initially entered college, after my military service, it was a different experience. Information was different. And at that time, I didn't know the difference. I was just in school. I was fresh out of the military and I was in school. I ended up leaving school, sort of to make a long story short. I left school, had to mature, grow up a little bit, see some things. I ended up going to Egypt. When I was in Egypt, because Egypt is a developing country, you can come and you can work. You can teach English. I was teaching English at the time. You can teach English without a degree, without anything. I did have a TEFL certification, which is teaching English as a foreign language. I did have that certification, but I had no bachelor's degree, no college degree to speak of. And then the revolutions began to jump off. They had two of them while I was there. It forced me to look at my options. And I began to look at other countries to migrate to if I needed to. And every country that I looked at required a bachelor's degree. So I was sort of stuck. Well, I told myself, I don't want to be in Egypt because I can't go anywhere else. I want to be in Egypt because I choose to be, but I have options. So I had to make a choice, and I came to the revelation, or I had the epiphany that sometimes in life you have to take one step back to take two steps forward. So I decided to return to America to finish my bachelor's degree. I came back, long story short, finished my bachelor's degree, and then moved on to an advanced degree. I went to graduate school, and I was successful in completing graduate school as well. When I was in undergraduate studies, because I was grounded in Islam and I was a little bit older and more mature than some of my colleagues, my, other classmates who were young, they're 18, 19, 20, still living in their parents' home or fresh out of their parents' home. I was a little bit more grounded, a little bit older, had experienced a little bit more. So uh, I'm not easily fooled. I'm not easily swayed. My head is not just, an open cup that you can just open up and pour whatever you want into it and I digest it. Whereas with some of the younger ones, it's easier to do that. Not to say that I was rebellious, but I wasn't so accepting of concepts and theories and agendas that were being pushed in my direction. In secular education, especially again in the social sciences or humanities, you have concepts and things that are pushed hard. And these concepts and these theories are laced with kufr, laced with shirk and ma'asi. If you are not well grounded in your religion, it would be easy for you to be swayed and to be misguided and become amongst the disbelievers. Here's an example. I was given the task by our professor to write an opinion-based paper on LBGTQ, an issue pertaining to LBGTQ. Now, as a Muslim, my position is clear. I'm not supportive. Islam is not supportive of that lifestyle. We don't aid it. We don't help it. We don't, it goes against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us is correct. So we are against it. So, I wrote this opinion-based paper and received an F. How do you receive an F for my opinion? How do you receive an F for an opinion-based paper? But lo and behold, I received an F. Well, again, being a grown man, ex-military, I'm able to speak up for myself and I'm able to defend myself and I'm not intimidated by credentials. I'm not intimidated by positions. So I went to this professor and we had some words. She was an aspiring PhD student at that time. She refused to change my grade. So I went above her head. I went to the chair of the department and I spoke to him and I showed him the paper and he looked at me and said, this paper deserves an A. Therefore, he changed the grade. Needless to say, this aspiring PhD student was not happy about that. She ended up leaving the program. She got angry and she actually quit the program and, she never received her PhD. She failed a test and some other stuff. Anyway, one of my other professors at the time was a master's degree holder. And this reoccurring statement really impressed upon me and amongst, the other students. He said, if you want to know the agenda of something, if you want to know the purpose or the reason behind something, you follow the money. See who's funding, whatever it is, movement, organization, movie, whatever the case may be. Where's the funding coming from? And when you know where the funding is coming from, then you know the agenda, or you can figure out the agenda behind, what's going on, the movement, the movie, whatever the case may be. In the humanities and social sciences, it's heavily laced with many deviant ideas, theories, concepts, and beliefs. These ideas, you have postmodernist thoughts, you have moral relativism that's pushed hard. Moral relativism basically reduces truth down to the individual. Each individual defines for themselves what is truth. Therefore, you cannot question somebody else's truth. Why? Because it's their truth. So a person identifies as whatever they identify as. Who are you to question what they identify as? We're going to push the facts to the side. If you have male genitalia, then you are a male. If you have female genitalia, then you are a female, regardless of how you feel. The actual facts, biology, science, all those things are pushed to the side, and everything is reduced to the individual, belief system or feelings of the individual. There is no universal source for truth. So with moral relativism, as a Muslim, we understand that Allah defines for us the truth. He guides us and tells us what is truth from what is falsehood, what is permissible, what is impermissible, halal and haram. Well, with academia now, any type of religious text is not viewed as a valid source of anything. It's pushed to the side. It's not, it's like a comic book. It's fantasy to them. This is how they view religious text. It's fantasy. It's not truth. It's fairy tales. For a Muslim who's not well grounded or well versed in their religion, it would be easy to be misguided, because these ideas, this postmodernist thought, this moral relativism, this hyper liberal idea of everything, that everything is okay. There is no limits pretty much on what's not okay. Whatever makes the individual feel good and whatever makes the individual feel comfortable is what is okay. And you must accept it. You must, if a guy wears a dress and a wig and he has a full beard and he's wearing high heels and he comes to work and you refer to him as sir, you will get in trouble because he doesn't identify as sir. You must not only call him by that, but you must accept how he or how she identifies themselves, because that is their truth. Moral relativism. This is what's being pushed and promoted. And I have seen Muslims become atheist. Wallahi, I've seen Muslims become atheist. I've seen Muslims who were not grounded in their religion. They weren't knowledgeable. They spent a lot of time with these academics, and therefore they lost their way totally 100%. And now they're atheist. On the campus, you have organizations and groups that are very active in calling to whatever their brand of deviancy is. And I use this term deviancy by using Islam as the barometer. This video that I'm making is primarily for the Muslim. Whoever else finds benefit in it, then that's great. So if you're not Muslim and Islam is not your barometer, then, this video may not be for you. It may not be for you. Within academia, these concepts, these theories of postmodernist thought, moral relativism, hyperliberalism, these are pushed and promoted hard throughout the humanities and social sciences. And you must be able to regurgitate on testing that which they teach you, whether you believe it or not. Now, again, because I was a little bit older when I went back to school, I was able to filter everything that I learned through an Islamic filter. I viewed everything through an Islamic lens. So that determined for me right from wrong, good from bad, acceptance from rejection. I used Islam. Needless to say, that wasn't the popular uh, way of doing things in academia. And I bumped heads with a few professors here and there, which today I'm glad that I stood my ground and didn't capitulate. If you accept, or if you are not accept, but if you are immersed in this academia long enough, especially as you move up the academic stratum and you move up and you go into the advanced degrees, your master's degrees, PhDs, things like this, you can know, without doubt, develop a cognitive bias toward reality. Again, I'm speaking from the position of Islam being the barometer or the measuring stick or the gauge for what you determine truth from falsehood to be, right from wrong, good from bad. You will gain, or you could gain, a cognitive bias, a twisted view of reality. Without that Islamic grounding, without having good Islamic resources to refer back to debrief when you cover issues that may contradict Islam, again, this cognitive bias can definitely be created in you. If the exogenous forces that you're coming in contact with are more salient and stronger to you than your Islamic grounding, wallahi, it'll mess you up. It'll mess you up. Ultimately, Allah is the guide. We understand that. Ultimately, Allah is the guide. And we ask Allah every day in our salah for guidance and not to be misguided. So we have to be careful when we put ourselves in situations that we may not be ready for. For parents, before you send your son or daughter off to any university, you need to make sure that they are Islamically grounded and prepared. I would definitely travel to the university and seek out Islamic organizations, look for the various masajid, check the masajid to see what their aqidah and minhaj is, see what they are upon. Introduce your son or daughter to the Islamic community with them. Go with them. Introduce yourself so that when they land on the university campus, they have a resource. They have a place to go that they already feel comfortable, that they don't feel the need to fit in. And that's where I think some of the problem, people are or can be weak. When people are in a weaker position, meaning they're not the majority, then it's easy for them to, sit back, keep their mouth closed, listen, shake their head, nod their head, yes. And then slowly but surely that trickle down effect, it tends to enter their heart. And then slowly but surely they begin to digest and believe what they're being taught because they don't have the Islamic counter narrative. Many of the concepts that you learn, I'm not going to say many, but some of the core concepts and theories that you get from the social sciences are the antithesis to what you find as the core principles and beliefs within Islam. So, if a person is not grounded and a person is not careful, then they will succumb and become what some individuals have become, having studied Islam and then immersing themselves in secular education and then losing their Islam and viewing Western education as the pinnacle for education. It's the pinnacle. This is what we strive for. This is the top. Western education is the top. And that's not the truth. Again, when we speak from the social sciences and humanities area of education, I can't really speak on STEM too much. I don't know how much contact they come in, they come in contact with these various, things that I have mentioned. But I know in the social sciences, it's easy to become ostracized. It's easy to become the target of vitriol and antipathy from professors because you are not towing the line. Your belief is not aiding them in the maintenance of the status quo. The status quo, maintenance of the status quo, pushing agendas that are funded is the call many times in academia. So you have to be viewed as an accomplice, a partner, accepting. You have to accept everything. And if you don't accept everything, then you very well may find yourself on the outside looking in and have a very difficult educational process. The theories within sociology, when compared to Islamic, the core beliefs in Islam, it's a very stylistic, superficial knowledge that these people tend to covet. And, as a Muslim, obviously we believe in Allah, but we also know that the shaitan is real. And the shaitan comes to the youth who have the opportunity to get higher education. He comes through these babs, through these doors of academia, social sciences, humanities, philosophy. When you come into it knowing that the shaitan is waiting for you on the other side of that door, then you can navigate those minefields in a more precise and a more strategic manner. Academia is the proving ground many times for deviant agendas, deviant behaviors to become normalized. And that's another way that we are made to feel many times that Islam is behind the times. Islam is barbaric. Islam is not progressive. It's not conducive to a first world society. Is that deviant behaviors are normalized. They're made to be, again, normal. This is done through academia, heavily through academia. This is done through the media, movies, television, whatever the deviant behavior is, whatever the agenda is, be it making certain racial or ethnic groups, cultural groups, periphery, marginalized, whether it's pushing and promoting a particular sexual leaning, whatever the case may be, academia and the media go hand in hand. They're brother and sister in this agenda, and we as Muslims have to recognize that. So as parents, we must be careful when we send our children to school. We must be vigilant and active in their journey and their process. We need to know who they're hanging out with. We need to know, are you attending Jumu'ah as a male? Are you going to Jumu'ah Salah? Call him or her at Fajr Salah and remind them, hey, wake up, because it's easy to fall by the wayside. If you have a roommate, some people may not feel comfortable waking up and possibly disturbing their non-Muslim roommate making wudu or listening to Quran or listening to a lecture out loud or dressing in Islamic fashion and form. When I went to college, I dressed in a thobe. Not that a thobe is mandatory, not that a thobe is wajib, not that this kalensua I have on my head is wajib, but it is an identifier because the other groups that are on campus will identify themselves as whatever they're into. They will identify themselves. So I identify myself so that you know I'm not on what you're on. It's also a da'wah because people will, come and ask me, why are you wearing that? This thobe, this dasha. Why are you wearing that? What does that mean? I've seen people wear it on TV. So not only is it an identifier to let others know what you are upon, it is also used as a method to call people because people are inquisitive on college campuses. They want to know things and they really are not too afraid to come up and ask you, what is that? What are you doing? Every day you come out of the bathroom and you're soaking wet. Why? What are you doing in there? "Oh, I'm making wudu." What's wudu? And then you begin, you're able to give them da'wah and explain to them what's what. Again, as parents, we need to be cognizant of what our sons and daughters are being subjected to, what they are being opened up to. I would look at the syllabi. If you have access to your son or daughter's syllabi, see what classes they're taking, because they very well may be signing up for classes that maybe you don't know. And when you see the syllabus, you're like, oh, no, we need to talk. Or you need to stay away from this class. You need to have these kinds of conversations with your sons and daughters. For those of you that are in college, don't be afraid to be who you are, because other groups are not afraid to be who they are. Have pride in the fact that you're from the guided, regardless of what others may say or think. They may think you're misguided. I'm talking about the non-believers. I could care less. They are not my focus. My focus is getting myself and my family to Jannah, not being accepted by academics, not being in the in group. Many times, we would have to go to colloquiums and lectures and different things like this. And some of the ideas that were being pushed, they were just ridiculous. They were ridiculous. But because I needed the grade, I had to go. Secular education is a miftah. It's a key. That's all it is. It's key. It's a key to this dunya as far as occupational opportunities. No more, no less. I don't find my spirituality in academia. I don't find my guidance within academia or sociology. I didn't mention my field of study is sociology. And my sociology is filtered through an Islamic lens. And to be honest, I'm the only Muslim academic sociologist that I know. So if there's any more of you out there, I would love to speak to you. Actually, I don't want to say that. I recently found somebody on Twitter but I don't think they're Muslim. I don't know. I don't know if they're Muslim or not. So I don't want to say that, but known Muslim. I'm the only Islamic or Muslim sociologist that I know. I also teach at the collegiate level sociology. It's important that, and I want to reiterate that as parents and just as Muslims in general, we have the best guidance through Allah and through Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do not become, overly in love with secular education and with credentials. Wallahi, some of the dumbest people I've met have credentials. Some of the most disconnected and godless people I have met have credentials. And I mean to put it in layman's terms, some straight weirdos have credentials. Their ideas are very inane, very they don't have restraint. There is no proverbial line in the sand for what's going over the line, what's too much. Everything is on a sliding scale of acceptability or not being accepted, and it's based upon the whims and desires of the society, because what society determines to be acceptable is what's being pushed in the university. What is, many times it falls down to which movement or which organization has the money to fund the research, to fund the scholarships, to sit on the boards, to bring their own like-minded people in to sort of establish their agenda. And all of that revolves around money. We need to be cognizant of that. We need to be aware of that. And we need to view secular education from the proper vantage point, that secular education is basically just a tool for you to gain the education or the occupational position that you want. I understand, when you go overseas, some countries will not let you enter and get a work visa without a bachelor's degree. You must have a degree. We have to understand the reasons why we are subjecting ourselves to the rigors of academia. And, we're doing it for the betterment, the economic betterment of our family. We're doing it for social mobility, having the ability to move up the ladder. I know that some companies that I've worked for in the past, you couldn't, be in management without a degree. The degree was the tool that was used to weed out individuals. If you didn't have a degree, you weren't eligible for management. You may have been at the company for 20 years, but you'll always just be a worker, never a decision maker or a policy creator. You'll always just be a worker bee or an ant, so to speak. I think that's it. I think I've made my point. Your Islamic education, in the end, ultimately is more important than your secular education. And don't put secular education ahead of because Yom Qiyamah, you're not going to be asked about your secular education, but you will be asked, who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is the prophet? What did you say about him? You'll be asked those questions. You'll be asked about your salah. You'll be asked about how you lived your life. And if you're a male, how you treated your family. If you're a woman, how you treated your husband. You'll be asked all of these things. You're not going to be asked about your credentials, nor are your credentials going to give you some type of pass to Jannah or to a higher level of Jannah. In reality, it's not going to get you anything. So again, it's the key for this world as far as what you're eligible for positions. We understand as Muslims, and let me reiterate this, Allah decides where we go, what we get, and what we don't get. But in this society that we live in, we have to deal with the reality that, degrees are one of the tools or one of the criteria that this society helps to determine the value of a person, the level of intelligence of a person, the employment position that a person is eligible for, be it management, CEO, whatever the case may be. The degree is used as a weeding out tool to sort of separate the people in the society. So the degree doesn't make a person better. It doesn't necessarily make a person more intelligent. Because again, I've known people who have PhDs who are some of the dumbest people I've ever met. I'm not saying they're not nice, but they're just disconnected and not grounded in a reality. They have a very binary view of the society. Everything is X's and O's, black and white. If science can't substantiate it, then it doesn't exist. This is the type of thinking that sometimes the social sciences will create. If science cannot, if the five senses cannot receive it, and science cannot, or data cannot substantiate it or prove it, then it doesn't exist. Therefore, God doesn't exist. Isa alayhi salam never existed. No, Islam, nothing is real because it can't be reduced to data, tangible data. This is the way that these people think, and this is what sometimes the social sciences will teach. But the skill set that you can take from the social sciences, if again filtered through that Islamic lens, is awesome. And it can be beneficial to the Muslim because the research skills and the analytical skills and the critical thinking skills that you hone in the social sciences can help you to make the situation of the Muslims better. I use mine for the betterment of the Muslim first, and then the African American community, because the African American community is on the outside looking in historically from the beginning to now. They are persona non grata. They are just on the outside. They're periphery, marginalized. And they need to be reached out to. They deserve da'wah just like any other group. And I'm from them. So I understand them and I have love for them. And I know that they need help. So what I do with my sociological skills is I try to help the Muslims, all Muslims. And then sometimes I will tailor and specify African-American Muslims and African-American non-Muslim community. And sometimes there is an intersectionality between all of those. When you find that intersectionality, when you find that that cohesive or coalescence between the issues that affect the different demographics that I just mentioned, it's a wonderful thing. So hopefully, this video makes sense. I hope that I didn't say anything incorrect, Islamically incorrect. If I did, I apologize. And feel free to subscribe to the page. Don't forget. I don't make videos that often. I have to be moved by something. Something has to become particularly salient to me and say, something, I have something to say. I have some level of expertise or experience or something like that. Let me say something. Let me try to help. So, again, I don't make videos that often. But when I do, hopefully, there's benefit to them. If you find benefit in the video, please share it. Any questions or concerns or anything that I can do to help, post a question. And if I can answer it, I will most certainly answer it. So everyone have a good day, a good evening, wherever you are in the world. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide us and aid us and protect us, protect our aql, protect our hearts, protect our Islam, and make us better every day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.